You guys should probably turn the music off even though you have no mic. I don't know how you pay attention with the music. Okay, let me take attendance. Aguilera. Okay, Aguilera's not here. Alvarado.
Here.
Balcázar.
Here.
Baptist.
Present.
Cáceres.
Present.
Cross.
Present.
Thorny. Not here. Thorny Square. Flowers.
Present. Present, Professor.
Yes. Hold on.
Sorry.
Garcia.
Here.
Garza. Spain.
She's not with us anymore.
That sounds harsh. She left the. I think your tutor told me something about that. Let me check. He mentioned one student that where's my phone? Let me connect my phone because I'm not connected. And I can't check what's up.
Professor Aguilera Espinosa write in the chat.
Yeah, I guess. There, okay, Gonzalez.
Here.
Gonzalez Guerra, or De Sama,
Here.
Lébano. Not here. Marquez.
Here.
Morales.
Here.
Ortega. Patiño. Ramírez.
Here.
Ramírez Square.
Here.
Kings.
Here.
Wake up. Rodriguez. Rodriguez, not here.
Rodriguez in the chat.
The chat. Okay. I see you. I see you. Don't yell at me. Woman.
Present.
Salazar.
Present.
Sanchez.
Present.
Uribe.
Present.
Velarde.
Present.
And Victoriano. Okay. Last class, I asked you to install Visual Studio. Did you?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Now, hold on. Somebody in the chat. Okay. And somebody entered a little bit later. That's Levana, right? Are you here?
Yeah,
Levana?
yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You're
It's
late.
by my signal, sorry.
Oh, you what?
I have a problem with my internet, so sorry.
Okay. So anyway, Visual Studio Code, and let me, because sometimes we have, I'm sorry, Visual Studio. Sometimes we have a little bit of problem understanding everything, like I just did. Hold on, let me open Notepad. So I ask you to install Visual Studio .NET. Okay, Visual Studio.NET. This is an IDE. You know what that is?
I
No.
think it's like where you are working, the working space, something like that.
It's called Integrated Development Environment. Okay, so back in the day, programming Java or other programs, or sometimes today, we would code in an editor, write the code in an editor, and then run it on a command line. You know what the command line is, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we would do things in different parts, in different programs. Even right now, if we program in Visual Studio Code, we write the code down in Visual Studio Code, we have to go to Chrome or our browser to execute it or to show it. So that's not integrated. An integrated development environment is a tool, an application that allows us to write down the code and then to execute and compile and the debug, whatever, in the same application. That is what is called an integrated development environment. So Visual Studio Code is actually the application that allows us to create applications in the .NET framework. So this is Visual Studio.NET, but you're not programming in Visual Studio.NET. It's like saying you program in Visual Studio Code. You don't program in Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is your tool. You actually program in PHP or JavaScript or other languages. Okay, so this is just the tool. What we're actually using is .NET Framework. Do you remember what we said a framework was?
It was like a library, no? That
A
it have
library?
a lot of code that allows you to write the code and the form they do, no? Like the tables and all that.
Anybody have another answer?
I think you told us that it was a set of tools, and it was like, it let us know how to use those tools. Like,
Okay, it's a guideline of how to use them. That's the difference between a library and a framework. Both are tools, but the library is just the tools. The framework is a set of rules and standards of how you should use those tools. Okay, so it extends what a library is. So .NET framework is the way Microsoft, remember this is all Microsoft, we're going with, there's always a debate between open source and Microsoft. So right now we're using Microsoft. So .NET framework is a set of tools to develop different applications and a set of guidelines of how to develop those applications. Okay. So in that framework, we have different languages like C#.NET that you've used. We also call it Visual C#.NET. Whenever you see visual, that means that you can do graphical user interface, buttons and stuff like that. But C# is kind of like C, but it's for visual for .NET framework. And you have languages, but the one we're going to use now is ASP.NET. ASP.NET is to develop web applications. And actually, we're going to create web APIs. It's actually ASP.NET web API. Well, actually,
Professor.
web API. Well, come on. Yeah.
Professor, I'm sorry, but Zoom wasn't loading me. So could you give me assist
Can I give you access to where?
assistance?
Thank you for interrupting in the middle of class. What is your name?
Ortega.
Do that after class. Okay, not in the middle of it. Okay, so we're going to use ASP.NET to create web APIs, which we know what an API is, so we're just going to do it here. So please, I forgot to tell you, did you guys have SQL Server installed? Yes, no.
Yes,
Um,
I have, but
Okay, please, for next class, install SQL Server. We actually need it for today, but I forgot to tell you. So if you have Visual Studio, depending on the version that you have, you'll be able to create different projects. So I'm going to create a new project. Now, as you can see here, we have different languages that we can use. Visual C#, Visual Basic, Visual F#, which I've never used. And then we can have different types of applications that we can create. Windows Presentation Foundation app is kind of like a Windows app. Let me see if I can find you a screenshot. Yeah, let's look for a nice one. Nothing. Okay, let's see if we do Windows Presentation. Okay, no, not many. We used to teach this, but we don't teach Windows applications anymore. So they're, kind of like these type of applications, but you have to install them in your computer. Okay, so they look like web, but they're actually applications. Yep. So you can do Windows Presentation Foundation applications, WPF. You can do Windows Form, which Windows Form is like the older type. Windows Form is like these, okay? These type of applications. So we don't use them anymore. They're kind of old. And console applications, they run on the basic console. We are going to use those, but just to test our backend, our classes, and our connection to the database before we migrate to ASP.NET. Okay. We're not going to explain right now the core and framework. It's a little bit complex, and the ones we use is ASP.NET Web Applications. I mean, that's the one I actually had selected here. And as you can see, I have two of them. So look for ASP.NET Web Application. We need to give it a name and a location where you're going to save it. The difference between this and for instance, PHP, in PHP, we have one folder which is the folder that is the web server. In our case, ASP.NET generates a web server. So every time you run the application, it generates a web server with a specific port. So that's the way you're going to connect to it. So you can save it anywhere you want. Okay, so we're going to do, how are we going to call it? 201. And let's create a folder here. Okay. And then it's gonna ask us what type of application we're gonna create. Let me know when you're here.
Professor, when I am checking the frameworks, that asking me, I see that you have 4.6.1. We have to use that or
No,
other.
you can use a little bit different frameworks. They're gonna change a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
Okay, everybody ready?
Yes, I think.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna select Web API, and we're gonna click on OK. Now today we're gonna do it without database connection, but then we're going to do it with database connection. Now, of course, since this is a framework, it already creates a lot of the functionality for us. So we don't have to do an actual controller or anything like that. We just need to create the actions. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit simpler. And a lot of the frameworks that you're going to use are going to be simpler. But the thing is that you already know what is behind it because we've already done the controller and the router and all of that. Okay, it's taking a while here. It's taking a long while.
Visual Studio, I think, is very slow.
There you go. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Visual Studio. I assume you are because you saw it in second quadrimester, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna have our solution and we're gonna have our folders. This is our whole project. Now, we're not gonna get into all of them, just a few. But if you can tell in the model view controller framework, we have models, views, and controllers. Okay, so this is the NVC, but we're not going to use the view part. we're gonna switch it a little bit. And down here where it says web config, that is the configuration of your application. So the part that we're interested in is, well, it's not here. We have to put it here. So we have to put the, did I open the web config? Yeah. We have to create the connection string to our database here. So a connection string is basically server name, database, user, and password. Okay, the same thing we did in PHP. We had a configure a config.php file where we put all of that. Actually, it was config.json, I think we did. Okay, so it's the same thing. But we're gonna put it here. But we're not gonna use it right now because we're not gonna do any connections to the database. So first, we have our folders. We're gonna create a new model. And we're just gonna add a new class. A model is just another name for class. Now, if I remember correctly, you should have seen classes again in C#, correct? Yes?
I don't know. I don't think it's not C sharp. Is we are
We
C.
use Java in second quadrimester.
Use what?
No. Oh.
We
Okay, well,
use
anyway, that doesn't
yes.
matter. I'll teach you again. So we're gonna give the class a name, okay? So let's give it a brand. Remember, classes are singular and the upper camel case. Okay? We're good?
Yes.
Okay, the namespace is just the group of classes. We're not going to use it right now because later on we're going to switch from one namespace to the other. So basically what you have is, remember when we create models, or when we have a whole bunch of methods that do things that are similar, we group them in a class. So when we have a whole bunch of classes that do several things similar, we group them in a namespace. In Java, they're called packages, but here they're called namespace. So we have our own namespace for our project, but we're not going to use that. We're just going to do the brand class. Now, one thing that Visual Studio has is if you erase the last curly bracket and you place it again, it's going to fix the indentation for your entire code. Okay, if it doesn't have any errors. Now, another thing that Visual Studio has is what we call regions. So they're just basically collapsible areas inside your code. They actually do not change the code. They just allow you to organize your code. So to put a region, we're gonna put a hashtag region, and we're gonna have 4 regions. We're gonna have the attributes, and then we're gonna do and region. And as you can see, this is collapsible. Doesn't mean that I'm erasing it. It's just that it's collapsible. Okay, so you can get that out of the way or show it. We're gonna have a region called properties. Now, properties is what Visual Studio, actually .NET, uses for instead of getters and setters. They use properties. And then we're gonna do instance. Well, actually constructors. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is end region. No wonder I had a little error message down there. Okay, I've told you this many times. Can somebody answer that? Nobody?
I don't remember.
At least look it up so you can answer me. I've told you many times and I've asked you to understand it and memorize what it is. A developer cannot be a developer if they don't understand this simple concept. Espinosa says a class member is the one that can be used only for the class. Not really. Nobody?
No.
Uh, an
Okay.
instance is a property and class is an entity or subject.
Nope. You read that, but no. Okay. Remember, member is an attribute, property, or method. Okay. So we call them members because this applies to everything. And again, an instant member, what is an instance? And again, I'm explaining something that I've already explained several times. What is an instance?
It's like a case or an example.
Nope. That is the translation of the word, maybe, but not in this case, not in this instance.
Is a class?
What?
Class?
No, actually not. It's an object. Okay? An object is an instance of the class. So when you instantiate an object, you actually, you instantiate a class, you create an object. It's kind of disappointing that I explained to you something and you don't give it enough importance to remember it. Okay? So you need to fix that. You need to actually study and do your own homework. So for instance, if we have this, And, let's do it in C sharp. So this is how we display in C sharp. So we're displaying. This is a property. Okay. If you want to do it in another language, the C sharp. You want to do it in Java. Well, this is the same thing. This. PHP. Okay, any way you want it. Same thing. Okay, so whichever one you want. First name. Is it an instance member or a class member? Who does it belong to? Or to whom does it belong?
And to an instance.
Specifically, which instance? Which object?
And a student.
No, student is a class.
Okay, and then the first name is the instance.
No. Not the first name, not the student. Which is the instance?
The letter S.
S is the object.
Um,
Okay, S is the object, is the instance. So in this case, S or S, whichever one you want, is the object instance. Okay, student is the class. S is an instance of student. And first name is a property of S, or get first name. I don't know how to write. Is a method of S, or S. Okay, so this is the class, this is the object. First name or get first name belongs to the object, belongs to the instance. That means that it is a instance member. It's a property or method that belongs to the instance. Okay. Second example would be, again, whichever one you want. If I have depends on which one we want. In C sharp, I forgot. Well, it's actually going to be something like this. Okay. So here, get all is a method. We can tell it's a method because it has parentheses. So get all belongs to whom?
To the class.
To the class, okay? Not to one particular object, not to one particular method. Or I'm sorry, not to, for one particular instance. It belongs to the class. So this is a class member, okay? And we don't have to create an object for this. Now the for each is reading every student and is putting it is bringing it as an S. We know how the for each works, or we should know. So this is a class member. This is a instance member. Okay. Now, I've already told you this, but again, I'm telling you it again. So back here, we're going to create first our attributes. Can somebody tell me, and I'm being optimistic here, but let's see, maybe yes. What are access modifiers?
The private and public function.
Private.
Private, and sorry.
Private,
And public.
public, and there's another one. There's actually two more, but we only use the other one. Protected. Who can see private attributes? Private members. Okay, did you read it?
And private is only accessible for the class, not
Within
that
the class.
in the class.
Inside, so you understand. Okay, but the correct term would be within. Protected. Oh, give me a second while you read it. Okay. Okay, sorry, I had a phone call. Okay, so protected. Anybody? Nobody?
I think it was only in the page that in the document that you are in, no?
That would be private.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean? I mean, you guys are not even making the effort to open Google and look for it. Let's see how long does it take? Ah. Okay, so again, you can see results here. Okay, so protected can be accessed in the inside the class. And what does this mean?
The subclasses,
Which would be which ones?
I don't know, the classes are made from the main class.
Yeah, but there's a word there.
Instance.
No.
When you use heresy?
Inherit?
Okay, the children classes, those that inherit from it. And public is access, I think it is. It's actually within, well, we're not going to get into that. Okay, so here we're going to create our attributes as private. And we're going to define two attributes, the ID and the description. Now, normally C# is not required, but it's suggested that attributes start with an underscore. Okay. And now we're going to create the getters and setters, but again, they're not getters and setters because this is C#. So they're called properties. So we're going to create the properties, which as you'll see, they look like getters and setters. They're just a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on a property, on an attribute, and then go to quick actions and refactoring. And we're going to select encapsulate field. Now this doesn't really matter because as you can see, they're already private, but this would actually change it. This one would change it to public. If it were public, it would change it to private, but it's still showing you that's going to do the same thing. Okay, no, doesn't matter which one. But we're actually going to use only property and use property, not field. So as you can see, we're going to do the same for the other one. Quick actions, refactoring, encapsulate field. Now, if you're already familiar, or you should be familiar with the concept of encapsulation, so we're not going to do it here. And we're going to create it. Now, I want these two inside the properties area. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the get, which if we try to read the property ID, is just going to return the value of the ID. And set, whatever value we send, is going to return, is going to send it to the attribute. So it's the same, getter and setter. If we were to take out the set, that would mean that the attribute would be read only. We could read ID, but we cannot set the value for ID. Okay. Okay, so it's again, it's basically like a getter and setter, but it's a little bit different. It's not a method. Okay, got it?
Is the same thing if in the properties, when I did this, it says something like system.string?
Well, it shouldn't, because since we were using system up here, the namespace, you don't have to put it here. So if it's up here, you can actually erase it from down here.
All right.
It's kind of like in Java, when you import a package, you don't have to write down the package down there. So you have these two, we're good? Okay, you don't answer, so I'm gonna collapse both of them. I'm not erasing them, I'm just collapsing them. And I'm gonna work on the constructor. So we're gonna have 3 constructors, like we always have. Constructors are public. In the case of C#, the name of the constructor is the same as the name of the class. And so is Java and C++. And here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put 3 dashes. This creates a comment system. And the reason we do this is because when we say do this, and we see what the method does, for instance, write, it tells us what it does. Writes the text representation of specific objects, et cetera, et cetera. And so we want this to be shown when we do this. So when we select, when we're in our code and we say brand, et cetera, it's gonna show us, okay, creates an empty object. So it's gonna do the same thing that it's doing here, okay? So we're gonna create 3 methods. This one, we're gonna simulate that we get the information from the database. So we're not getting it from the database. And okay, something like that. Okay, so we're supposed to get it from the database. Again, 3 dashes. And here it asks what the parameter ID is. So we're gonna say brand ID. And the last one is the one that receives all of them. And again, it says, as for an ID, into brand ID, brand description. Ah. So we have our three constructors. Make sure you have them. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to explain what a constructor is or overloading, anything like that. That's from second semester. Okay, so we have the constructors. We're not going to create any instance method right now. We're just going to create our class method that's going to return a list of brands. So again, they should come from the database, but we're not doing that right now. So again, it's going to be a static method. We know that. In this case, we're going to return a list. So this, in C# is a list of brand objects. And we're going to declare the list. And eventually we're going to return the list. So the same thing we were doing in PHP, we're just doing it here in C# with a little different naming, different code. So we should get them from the database, but again, we're simulating right now. So we say list.add new brand, and we're going to say NK, Nike. Let's try to put them in order. So we're gonna have 3. Got it?
Yep.
Okay, so now we have our model, assuming that eventually we connect it to the database, this constructor here, and this constructor here. But I'm sorry, this method here. But for now, we have our method, our model. So we're gonna go now to something that we called a view model. A view model is when you want to show, let's say you have a dashboard and you're going to have lists from different places and information from different objects. You don't want to return the exact same object. You want to set it up so in another model so you can return this exact JSON structure that you want. You'll probably understand it a little bit better when I do this. Okay. So we're gonna create a folder called view models. We're gonna click here, right click, add folder, new folder. We're gonna call it view models. Okay, and we're gonna create one. It'll be add. We're actually gonna create another folder, brands. And then in there, we're gonna create 2 new models, which are actually just classes. We're gonna create brand view model, and we're gonna create not a folder. I don't want this. We call it brand list view model. Okay, and we're going to create another model, view model. Called JSON view model. In JSON view model, again, we're going to take out the namespace, and we're just going to add one property. We're not going to do attributes and properties. Just this is just so what we're going to show. So it's going to be public integer status, and we're going to do something simpler for getter and setter, which is just this, get and set. So that means that status can be read and status can be assigned. And we actually can do this as an abstract class. Okay, got it? Yes, no. Again, I'm not going to get too much into this, but we know what an abstract class is, or we should know what an abstract class is. We've done it many times. It is a class that you only use as a parent, but you cannot create an object as a JSON view model. You cannot create an object of this class. You can only use it as a parent. We've seen this, all of this. And actually, you've seen all of this since second semester. So we're going to start with the brand list view model. So again, we're going to take out the namespace. And we're going to inherit from JSON view model. So we know it has a status. And the other thing it's going to have is a list of brands. Again, getting set. Okay. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, now the brand view model is going to be very similar, but it's not going to be a list. It's just going to be one brand. Got it? Yes or no?
Right, yes.
Okay, so we're done with the view models. Now what we're going to do is the controllers. Now remember, the router and all of that is already set on Visual Studio. So we're just going to do the routers. I'm sorry, the controllers. So we're going to go to the controllers and add controller. Okay. So we're going to select controller and we're going to select Web API 2 controller with read write actions. Remember the actions we normally use 5: get all, get one, get all, post, put, and delete. Those are the 5 actions that we use. Okay. So read and write actions are going to be those 5. So we're going to select Web API controller with read and write actions. And we're going to call it brand controller. Just as we did in PHP, in the URL, we're just going to access brand and this not controller, just brand. It's creating the controller. Just created the get. Interesting. Okay, well, doesn't matter. We're just going to use get and get all, but not like this. So we could create it. I don't know why I created it that way. We can create it as an empty controller, so we can write everything. Because actually what it did is not gonna mean anything. We're gonna leave the namespace here in this one. We're not gonna move the controllers, just the classes. Let's create the controller. It already has the controller. What's wrong with this thing? Where am I? There we go. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna have 4 actions. Get, well, it's not called get and get all. It's just get with an ID and get without ID. So we're going to return an HTTP response message. Response message. There are, if you read documentation, there are going to be a lot of different ways to return this. The one I found, which is better for me, is the return message. So this is going to be the get all. We don't actually need to do this in this case because it's we're not going to invoke it anyway. This method is invoked by the controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an object of the view model. In this case, is the get all, because we know it's get all because we don't have a method here, an argument. So it's going to be what was it? Brand this view model, and we're just going to call it VM for view model. Now, it's very important to know that .NET, ASP.NET requires that methods have the prefix get should be an action. So it should be get, post, put, or delete. So if you're going to add a new brand, it should be post new brand or post brand or whatever you want. Okay, but it should be start with get or post. And actually, there are directives here that you can add to tell what type of method this is, if it's a get or post or whatever. But we normally only use those for methods that are not the top 5. Okay, if they're the top 5, the get or post or put or delete, we don't have to do that. If there are specific methods, then we do have to do that. But we'll do those later on. So now we have a view model, and we say view model dot status. Remember, since view model is a brand list view model, and it inherits from JSON view model, it has a status. So we're going to say status equals 0. And VM dot brands is going to be equals brand, and we're going to access the data from the database. Get all the brands. This one, remember, is everything is okay. That's our status. Okay. So we already populated the status property and the branch property. Now we're going to return it. So we're going to return request dot create response. And the code, and remember the code is this part here. Let me see if Postman wants to work today. I'm frozen. Oh, there we go. So the post is actually the code that we're gonna return. We want this, okay. Okay. So when we return, okay, we can return other things, but the one we want to return is okay. So HTTP status code, status code. As you can see, we can have that request, forbidden, not found, which would be 404. It can actually tell you, sorry. It will tell you what code is going to return, 202. Forbidden is 403. Found should be, again, 302. Not found should be 404. And the one we want is OK, which is 200, which is what we normally use. And there are many. Okay. Request timeout. So the one we want is OK. And then we're going to return the whatever it is that we're going to return. So it's going to be VM. Okay, got it? Yes or no? Yes, no. Okay, that's it. Let's execute it and see what happens. Now it's normally going to create a server. Is going to add a new tab to your browser. I'm just trying to see, since I have two browsers open, I'm looking at where is it adding it, here or here. Oh, there's an error list. Error list? Let's do it a second. Okay, it's adding it here. And it's going to tell you that your server is running, and it's going to give you an unique, I forgot the name, a port number. So mine is 52337, but yours will change. So I'm going to create a new request. Let's see which one's faster. Okay, ASP was faster. So it's telling me here that my server is running. Okay, and here, if you click on API, you're gonna see all your APIs. Obviously, we don't have documentation on it, but you're gonna see which APIs you have and which URLs you should use for those APIs. Okay, so the one we have is not this one. This is for values. We want the brands. So this is the URL API/brand. Okay, remember the controller is called brand controller. So it's just going to be brand. And all of them are in API. So if PH Postman wants to wake up one of these days, this is for a project I'm doing. Sometime today. What's the matter with Postman? Wake up. Now what did I do? Okay, some of you are back. Postman, I think, is waking up. So I have my request, and there we go. What's up? What was that? Okay. Did it work for you guys? Yes, no.
It is still loading.
Did it work or not?
Professor, can I take a look to the Brown view model, or and
Really? One line of code?
I think I have. I'm not sure if I have a problem there.
There's the extremely hard code.
Thanks. All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Did it work?
Yes.
How about the rest of you?
I got it.
Okay,
I got it.
that's 3 of you. I'm hoping that's 4. How about the rest?
Yeah, it works.
Okay, waiting for the rest of you. Just testing something until you finish. I think I need to restart my computer one of these days. Hey, give me a second. Give me a second here. I moved something here. Okay, while we're here, we're gonna do the other one. So to get one, so we're gonna go to the controller again. Oh, we need to stop it. Gonna be very similar. Actually, kind of similar. So, ah. So we're gonna ask for the ID. And we're not gonna use the brown list view model. We're just gonna use the brown view model. And we're simulating that we getting the brown. Oh. I think that's it. So let's run it again. Let's see if it's running. It's gonna create a whole bunch of pages, so you better start closing some. So it is that one there. And to test it, we're just gonna do whatever ID we want to send. Doesn't really matter because we're not getting it from the database. And we're getting our information here. Give me a second, please. Okay, did it work? Anybody?
It worked.
Okay, what I want you to do now is, I want you guys to pay attention. You're gonna do a little application in JavaScript with a fetch that's gonna get the brands. So you have your URL there, so you're able to get all the brands here. Now, you're not gonna be able to do it. You're gonna get an error message specifying course. Okay, a course error, course. Which again, remember, it stands for cross origin resource sharing. And remember in PHP, we solved that with the header what was it? I forgot. Let me, now my mind is not the same. Just give me a second here. Oh, I remember. Something happened to my mind. Remember, we used to solve it with this in PHP. Okay? In .NET, I want you to solve it. You're gonna have to investigate and see how we solve this problem. Okay?
Okay, Professor.
You understand what the problem is gonna be. You're gonna try to get this API here, and you're not gonna be able to because you're gonna get a course error, 505. Okay? So you're gonna have to solve that part. And you're gonna have to do a little bit of research.
All right, so we just have to fix the problem of the course, right?
Just, yes.
All right.
If you want to classify it as yes, as just that, yeah, just that.
Well, we are gonna try.
Don't try, do it. It has to work. Okay, so remember right here, we have in PHP, we have this. If we don't have this access control allow origin, you cannot access that resource because it's not being shared. In our case, we are sharing it, but in ASP.NET, we have to actually specify how to share it. And that's something that I want you guys to investigate, okay? So have fun. And we're gonna leave it here, and next class, I want you to solve this problem, okay?
All right.
Okay, so see you next class.
Okay, Professor.
Fix this. I don't want you to tell me, I couldn't find it. Fix it, okay? Got it?
Got it. Got it.
Okay, see you.
Yes, got it.
What is it, Friday, right?
Yep.
Okay, see you Friday.
See you.